everyone, welcome to Eden's Secret and episode 9 of soap making from scratch. So we're actually going to do 2 soaps today. So I've got 2 moulds here. Luckily I bought 2 moulds. You were limited to how many moulds you could buy, and 2 was the number. So I bought 2, so it's going to come in really useful today. So 2 moulds, basically the same soap in each with one slight difference, and I want to do the slight difference just to see if it actually does make a difference. So you're going to need 2 jugs, one with water in it. You're going to need some sodium hydroxide, also known as caustic soda. You're not going to need another jug to melt your oils in and mix your soap. We're going to need some olive oil, some coconut oil, and you can see that because it's really warm at the moment, the coconut oil is practically melted. We're going to use some shea butter today. You're going to need a mask, a pair of gloves and some goggles. You're going to need a metal spoon and a silicone spoon. You don't have to use a silicone spoon, just one metal spoon will do if you don't have a silicone. You're going to need some weighing scales, and the one extra thing that you're going to need if you're going to make both of the soaps that I'm making today is you're going to need some castor oil. So what I thought I would do is, we're doing a 3 oil recipe, 3 oils and butters basically. Olive oil, shea butter and coconut oil, and we're going to make a soap with just those 3 oils, and then we're going to make a soap with a little bit of added castor oil in there as well. Now it says to use up to 5% castor oil, so that's what we're going to be doing today. So let's get to our recipe, shall we? Let's check our recipe on soap calc. Then we'll come back and we'll weigh all of the oils out. Okay, so let's go over to soap calc. The type of lye we're using is NaOH. Our weight of oils is going to be in grams, and we're using 851 grams total weight of oils. 25% water as a percentage of oils, 5% super fat and no fragrance. We're just going to scroll down now to find our olive oil, double click it to add it to the table on the right hand side. Coconut oil, double click, and shea butter, double click that to add it to our table of ingredients on the right hand side. We're going to be weighing them in grams obviously, so 451 grams of olive oil, 200 grams of coconut oil, 200 grams of shea butter. Calculate the recipe, make sure it's 851 grams and 100%. View or print recipe. Okay, so the recipe name is going to be the Eden's Secret C-Pop cold process oven process soap recipe with 3 oils. If you want any of the recipes that we've done in the soap making from scratch series, just get in touch with me via the website. Scroll down to the bottom of the page and the contact is there on the website, and I'll send you the PDF file of any of the recipes or all of the recipes that you want. Just check to make sure all of the information is correct on the printout. We're doing 212 grams of water, 117 grams of lye, 851 grams of oil. The total weight is 1180.86, and you can do this in ounces or pounds if you prefer. This is the recipe area of oils. And down here, I just want you to take note, this is the range and qualities of your bar of soap. You can see that all of the numbers in the recipe are well within range. when we get down to bubbles, you can see that this recipe has 16. Excuse me. So it's just inside the range for getting some decent bubbles into your bar. Now, the other recipe that we're doing is exactly the same, more or less. So I'm just going to fill in all the details as we did before. Water is a percentage of oils, 25, 5% superfat, no fragrance, and we're going to add one extra ingredient today. So we are going to look for olive oil first, double click it to add to the table. Then we're going for coconut oil, double click that to add it to the table. Double click the shea butter to add it to the table, and the extra ingredient we're going to use today is castor oil. Double click, add it to the table, and then again we're doing this in grams. 451 grams of olive oil, just the same, 200 grams of coconut oil, only 160 of shea butter, and 40 grams of castor oil. Check that your measurements and your percentages are correct, and then click to calculate your recipe. And you'll just notice the qualities of the bar of this one are slightly different to the first batch we're doing. And because we've added castor oil, you can see that we have got 4 extra points in the lather in the bubbles. Okay, with our gloves, mask and goggles, we're going to measure out, just tear that. We're going to measure out our water to add our lye into. So we need, from the recipe, we need 212.75 grams of water. So it's 0.75. So we'll take it up to 213 grams. That minute amount is not going to make any difference. There we are. And we also need 117 grams of lye. So right, once you get confident with your lye and your pouring skills, you can actually pour the lye straight into the water. But if you're not confident, just measure the lye in a separate jug. Measure the lye in a separate jug. And then tip your lye into your water. So we need 117 grams of lye. Then we can just pour the lye into the jug, and if you want to, you can actually stir the lye as it's going in. I actually don't usually do that. I just pour it in and then I start stirring immediately after the pour. Make sure you haven't got your face over the fumes, because it'll make you cough. And just keep giving it a stir until that water starts to clear. So as soon as that liquid is clear, you know that all of those granules have dissolved. Now as soon as that is done, I'm actually going to start measuring my oils now. So we'll just pop the lye to one side. We'll take the scales again pop the bowl on there that we want to measure into. Turn it on. And we're going to measure our oils into there. So we know that we need 200 grams of coconut oil, which we're going to melt in the microwave. So we've just gone over a little bit there. Now we're going to, oops, it's gone up by a gram. So we're just going to melt the coconut oil in the microwave now. And we're just opening up our shea butter. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cut small bits of the shea butter. Just chop it up into small chunks. Pop that in the melted coconut oil and just melt that on its own. Shea butter, if you melt it in the microwave too much, you can melt it in the microwave, but just be careful not to overdo it. It can get a bit grainy. So it's always best just to let it melt on its own in something warm or over a double boiler if you're not actually popping it in anything that's nice and warm. So we're at 374 there, 381, 389, 394, 98, 400. So that's 200 grams of coconut oil and 200 grams of shea butter in there. And so we're just going to gently stir that and allow that shea butter to melt. Now it is really important that any solid oils are fully melted. If there are any granules left in there that aren't dissolved, they will not saponify properly, and that's where you end up getting doffs. Now, doffs is little brown spots on your soap which tend to develop after a certain length of time, and it also matters how you store your soap. Soap needs to be stored somewhere warm with hardly any humidity, well, just as little humidity as possible, nice and dry. So never store the soap you've made in the kitchen, because you're cooking in there, so there's moisture going on all the time, steam, things boiling and bubbling, and so storage is very important to make sure you don't get any doffs. Now you can see there are bits in there that are not dissolved yet, and I could wait until they dissolve, but I'm actually just going to pop it in the microwave for 30 seconds. Now, as you can see, There are a couple of little granules in there, but stirring it is just going to make sure they dissolve. So that's now ready straight away to pour in our olive oil. Okay, so we've tared the scales again, and we're going to just pour our olive oil straight from the bottle. So we need 451 grams. Whew, that was lucky. Now I've actually spilt some on the scales, so I'm just going to wipe that off, and look at that. That's a whole gram that I've spilt. Oh, 2 grams. So, no, 1 gram. So we're just gonna put a little dribble in. Now we've got too much. So I'm going to take a pipette . There, just taking out that excess with a pipette. Okay, now as soon as our lye is cool, we're then going to add the lye into the oils. Okay, so that's the recipe weighed out, all the ingredients weighed out for the first recipe without the castor oil. So we've got the olive oil, the coconut oil and the shea butter in there. And there are the measurements. Now what I wanted to draw your attention to is the range again. So for hardness we've got a range of 38, which is probably smack bang right in the centre, between 29 and 54. Cleansing we've got 16, so again more or less in between the two numbers here. Conditioning 58, so again roundabout in the middle. Bubbly we've got 16, and the range is between 14 and 46, so we're just over the 14 there. We're gonna do the other batch now and measure all the ingredients for that and see if we can get a higher number than 16 by swapping out a little bit of the shea butter. We'll still have shea butter in there, but just take a little bit of that away and add the castor oil. So you're going to see me actually measure all of the ingredients, so I won't go into too much detail. So olive oil and coconut oil is just the same measurements as before. I've reduced the shea butter by 40 grams and I've added castor oil at 40 grams. So that gives us a percentage of 4.7, which is just under 5. And you can see here that it does change the recipe slightly, but it does bump up the bubbles to 20, so +4 on the bubbles. So we're going to make both of the soaps, and then we're going to test them at the end. As soon as this is saponified, I'm not waiting until they're cured or anything like that. We'll just do a lather test on both of the soaps and see if we can tell any difference. I'm suspecting not really, but it does say that we'll get an extra 4 points on the bubbles by adding that little bit of castor oil. Okay, so let's get all the ingredients measured now for the second batch of soap. Now the lye in the water measurement with the castor oil is exactly the same as it was for the 3 oils. So we're just going to add 117 grams of lye, caustic soda, sodium hydroxide into our 213 grams of water, which I've already measured. As you can see, I'm just pouring it straight into the water, and I'm just being very gentle because I'm doing it direct. So as I get up nearer to the quantity, it's hard to do when you're doing a video, just to make sure that you don't go over with the pouring of your lye. But as you can see, it is possible to do it that way. And then just take your spoon again and dissolve that lye into the water. Okay, just like we did last time, we're going to measure 200 grams of coconut oil into this container, which I've already melted in the microwave. So I always melt my solid oils first, obviously then I put my liquid oils in later. I've just gone over a little bit. Now this is where the difference will be. I'm going to add the shea butter in now, and I'm just putting 160 grams of shea butter in this time because I'm going to put 40 grams of castor oil. So this will go up to 360 grams. You can cut those pieces smaller if you want. You can grate the shea butter in if you want to, but that'll just make extra washing up by using the grater. So we're looking at 360 because we're putting 160 grams of shea butter in there. And this is unrefined shea butter. Usually I use refined shea butter. There we are. So we're just going to stir that until it's dissolved before we put the castor oil in. So I've got 2 soaps going at the same time here. And I just want to thank Katie from Royalty Soaps for giving me a shout out in one of her videos. If you've come over here from Katie's channel, I just want to say welcome to Eden's Secret, everyone. Sorry I haven't been around for a few weeks. I had an operation in April and I've been recovering from that, but I do post regular videos, usually about 4 videos per week. So if you love to watch soap making and other things, I do bath bombs and wax melts and box openings and things like that. You're very, very welcome to this channel. So there is our coconut oil and shea butter all dissolved. I'm going to put this container back on the scales. I'm going to tare it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add our olive oil, 451 grams. Oof, she went over again. Now most of the videos I do, I'm not measuring the oils and everything. This is only for my soap making from scratch series, of which I usually do one video every 2 weeks on a Friday night. So if you're interested in learning how to make soap, if you tune in every other Friday, from this Friday, I'll have a soap making from scratch episode for you. So 451 grams of olive oil straight out of the bottle, and now we're going to add our castor oil, and I need 40 grams of castor oil in there. And we're going to see how much difference this makes. Now you can see castor oil is, the viscosity is a lot thicker than your other oils. And you never need more than 5% in a recipe. Now it does say we're going to get extra bubbles with this recipe by adding this 5% castor oil. How much, what was the percentage of castor oil we're adding? Yeah, 4.7%, so it's not quite 5%, it's just under. Okay, so now I need to make sure that I don't mix these two containers up. So the one on the left is the container with the castor oil in there, and the one, this one is the one without castor oil. So I'm going to leave the whisk in the one that has the castor oil in so I don't get mixed up. Okay, so we're ready to mix our first batch. So we're just going to pour that lye in gently. And I forgot to show you at the beginning that you do need a blender. I mean, it's not imperative, but really, if you're going to be seriously making soap, a blender, you really need one. Okay, so this is the soap with the castor oil in. So we're just gently pouring our lye solution into the oils. If you haven't got a blender, you can just keep sporadically giving it a whisk like this and a stir. Go and sit down for a few minutes, get back up, give it a whisk and a stir until it's nice and opaque. See how that's very clear? And this is opaque. This is what your soap needs to look like before you pour it. Okay, so I think this is ready to pour now. It's definitely thick, not too thick, but just a lovely pourable consistency. I'm not going to texture the top today. I just think these bars, because they're just going to be used at home, I don't sell them because I haven't got certifications, safety assessments for all of these different recipes that I'm doing. Right, so I'm just going to pop that to one side. And now we're ready to pour the soap that has the castor oil in it. I don't know, I'm starting to think in my head, have I got them mixed up? This does look a little bit thicker. So we're gonna come up with recipes up to maybe 5 different oils. I mean, you don't need to go crazy and add 8 oils, 10 oils, 15 different oils in a batch of soap. You can get a really good recipe with 3 oils, 4 oils, even 2 oils, as you saw with the laurel berry oil soap. That made a beautiful bar of soap, although it was very expensive. Again, if you didn't see that, that's episode 8 on the soap making from scratch series. Right, so I'm going to keep the one with the castor oil in on the left. You can give it a tap down. That tends to get rid of some air bubbles. You'll never get rid of all of them. And we're just going to leave this. Actually, no, we're not leaving it overnight to saponify. We're going to C-pop it, aren't we? I forgot. We're going to C-pop these soaps. So let's put them on an oven tray and pop them into the oven. Okay, so we're just going to pop this oven in the oven. And I've covered the moulds with just a silicone liner. We're going to pop them in there. We're going to shut the door, and then we're going to turn the oven off. And apparently just leave them in there overnight. So what are the benefits to C-popping your soap? Okay, so it's the next day now, and I'm going to unmold these. I haven't had a peep at them, and I'm really nervous because this is the first time I've ever C-popped soap. So I'm frightened to look at them because I'm frightened there's going to be a crack right down the centre of each one. Because when soaps get too hot, they can crack. So let's have a look. Probably would have been better with a wooden lid on the top, but I didn't have one, so just had to go with what I had. Oh! We don't have any cracks. That's very lucky. While we're unmolding these, we're just going to talk a little bit about to gel or not to gel, because a lot of people ask me, do I actually gel my soaps? So I'm going to tell you straight off the bat that I don't. The reason I don't is I can't fit them in the oven because the loaf molds I use are too big. They just don't fit, too long. And I'm a bit lazy as to wrapping towels and everything around them. So there's 2 ways you can gel your soaps. What you need to do is you need to get them nice and warm so you can wrap them in towels or wood or some kind of encasing that's going to allow the heat to build up while the soap is in the mould. So you can also obviously put them in the oven like we did yesterday, 170 degrees Fahrenheit. Turn the oven off as soon as you put the soap in and just leave them in overnight. So gelling your soaps, basically what you're trying to do is heat up the soap. and when it gets hot enough during saponification, it'll go through a gel phase. And so to achieve gel, it's always best to wrap your soaps in towels or pop them in the oven. If you leave them unwrapped, there's a high chance that your soap will not gel, or it may partially gel. So if you just look at this photo that I've attached now, you'll see in the photo the centre's gelled but the outside of the soap isn't. So that's always the risk you take if you don't gel your soaps. But if you keep your soaps cool enough, allow them to saponify. If you don't want gel, you just need to try and keep them cool. That doesn't mean putting them in the fridge or anything like that. Just put them in a room that's not too hot. No need to wrap them in towels, no need to put them in the oven or anything like that, and hopefully they won't go through the gel phase, but you can't always guarantee it because some fragrance oils will make your soap heat up a lot more. We are going to get into fragrance oils in the future, but we're not quite ready for that. Actually, while you're watching, I want to ask you, I'm going to be doing clays and I'm going to do milks as well. And I just wonder, do you want to see, I know what the answer is going to be, but do you want to see the clays and the milks added before we go down the route of adding fragrance? That is the sensible way to do it. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that right here. I think the pros of gelling your soap is it doesn't warp, it lasts a lot longer on the shelf and lasts longer if people are using it. Now you might think that's not a good thing if you want to sell your soap, because you want it to use up pretty quickly so people come back quicker, but I'm a big believer in giving people value for money. And also I think, this is just something that I've come up with, I think there's less chance of actually getting DOS or rancid soap if you gel your soap. So that is it. So my answer is yes, I think it's preferable to gel your soap if you want to. It's just not always ideal for me. So I'm keeping the soap that was on the left hand side, I'm keeping it on the left hand side so that I know that that is the castor oil soap. So let's just unmold it, shall we? I mean, as you look at them, they both look very, very similar, don't they? Well, they look identical, actually. Now I can actually see a difference. This is the soap that doesn't have the castor oil in, and it's smoother to look at than the one with the castor oil. I'm not saying that it is the castor oil, but it just could been a mixing issue or a pouring issue. But they do look different, so at least it's going to make it easier for me to know which soap's which. And we're just going to take a potato peeler and trim the edge off. Do you know, I can still smell that laurel berry oil from the Aleppo soap. It was really, really strong smell, and it stayed in the mould. It will dissipate over time. it's not that one. Yeah, it's the one with the castor oil in. That's the one that the Aleppo soap mould must have been in. Okay, so let's cut the soap that doesn't have the castor oil in. I'm just using a single wire cutter, and as you can see, we have no central gel. You can see that the whole of the soap has gelled. And this is the loaf with the castor oil. Doesn't feel any different to cut. Looks very, very similar on the inside. Just looks a little bit different on the outside. Just wipe the wire down on the cutter after every slice, and then it stops you getting any rough edges on the top of your bar. So this is our loaf without castor. You can see we're getting nice 8 bars out of those loaves. Good, nice, good chunks, not thin at all. And this is our castor. And now we need to do a lather test on both. Okay, so let's try the lather, shall we? First up is the slice without castor. You see, we've got a nice lather there. Lovely lather. Creamy. Got some big bubbles in there. Feels nice and smooth. Now let's try the other one. This is the one with castor. Seems creamier. Bubbles are a bit better on that one, but I would say there's hardly any difference. They're both creamy and they've both got a good lather. I mean, can you tell a difference? I can't really. Right, so that's it from me for today. Don't forget, if you want to see our soap making from scratch series from episode 1 through to episode 9, just click on the card at the end of the video, or it's in the description box below the video. I'll see you all very soon for another video from Eden Secret. Bye bye for now.